the New York State Assembly, the 126th District, and we'll talk with Art Garrison.
Hi, my name is Art Garrison, and I am running for the New York State Assembly. Now, I've said that line several thousand times in the last few months as I've been knocking on doors, talking to folks in this district. And I've learned a lot while I'm doing that. And I hope that you're all learning a lot tonight. In fact, my friend George Phillips, who you heard is a school teacher, has created a quiz for this evening. And before you leave tonight, you're going to have to tell me Gary O'Neill's grandchildren's name and where Maurice Hinckley went to college and all the other information that you picked up tonight. I have some questions for you. I know you're going to have some questions for me. The first question I have for you is just raise your hand if you think New York is going in the right direction. Raise your hand. New York going in the... Okay, I thought so. I don't think so either. And that's why I'm running. New York is going the wrong way. New York is losing jobs. New York is losing population. New York is losing in competition with the other states. We need to change the direction of the state of New York. I am not a politician. I'm a small businessman. When you leave the library tonight and you walk out to the parking lot, you're going to look across the street and you're going to see my store, Family Hobby and Crafts. It's right across the parkway there. I know what it's like to struggle as a small businessman in this economy, in this county, in this state. Many of you understand that too. Many of you have lost a job. Many of you have had to take on jobs in a sector that you're not familiar with just to make ends meet. Many of you look at New York State government and you are frustrated with it. You watch the budget that doesn't get passed on time. You watch our representatives gavel in and gavel out of office without anything happening. You wonder why they're concentrating on these odd little bills that come up and you read about them in the paper, and why they don't have their eye on the big picture, the important things that we need to cover. We need to fix our economy. I happen to have a degree in economics from Villanova University. I understand economics thoroughly. I understand it from the classical point of view. I understand it from a very practical point of view, from being a small businessman. I know when we raise taxes, we drive businesses out of this area. I know that when we raise property taxes, we drive people out of this area. We drive seniors out of their homes. I know that when folks graduate from the university or out of our high schools, which are fine institutions, they can't find work. They have to leave the area. If I asked how many people here have children or grandchildren who left the area to find work, I'd see a whole lot more hands than I saw before. I have a child in the state university system right now. I have another one in high school. I worry about where they're going to find work. We have to fix that problem. We have to keep our eye on that problem more than anything else in our state government. Because without jobs, what else does it matter? If you can't find employment, then does it really, really matter to you about the other things that we're talking about all the time? The environment is important. Education is important. But if there's no place for those folks to work, they're going to leave. So we're going to educate people. They're going to come here. They're going to get an education, and then they're going to leave. That's not sustainable. It just doesn't work. So I ask you, when you're going to cast your vote on November 2nd, to think about the direction New York is going. And if it's not going the way you want, then I want you to think about making a change. Making a change on who is representing you from this district in Albany. And I'd appreciate it if I would have your vote.
You told us what the problems were, but did not tell us and give us a concrete example of how you are going to fix those problems. Running is the easy part of governing. Running is the easy part. Governing is hard. How do you plan to increase jobs in the state?
Thank you. 6 minutes, you couldn't tell everybody everything, right? And anybody who said running is easy doesn't know. We are in a downward spiral, and it works very simply. We spend too much, we tax too much, we chase people away, we chase businesses away. Because people lose their jobs, we need to spend more. We tax more, we chase more people away. We have to change the spiral, go the other direction. First and foremost, we need to cut spending. The problem in New York is not that we are taxed too little. The problem is we spend too much. So very simply, we have to look at everything, every single thing the state of New York spends money on. And we have to cut drastically. We can't afford those things that are nice. There just isn't room for it. If you have a budget in your home, you make so much money, you only can spend that much. You go too long going beyond that, you're bankrupt. We're in that position.
This is for Mr. Garrison. What is your stand on taking Medicare from the counties and giving it to the state?
It's one of those questions, which pocket do you want me to take the money out of? The county or the state, it's all tax money. It really is. We have to look at what we're offering in medical care as a state. Right now, the Medicaid problem the Assemblywoman brought up before, we offer virtually every option that the federal government allows the state to do when it comes to Medicaid. We have to trim that down. We have to look at making this an affordable system. A lot of times, folks who are on the government program end up with a lot better plan than you and I have as employees or employers. And so we have to trim it down so it's reasonable, it provides care, it's not duplication. And it's not really so important, to a county obviously it's important, they want to send it away and we want to get rid of unfunded mandates. But the real thing is reforming the system itself.
Garrison, great question. How do you create a job?
Here we go again. I love it. How do you create a job? Well, there's a lot of ways to create a job. But you might have heard this question asked in the Connecticut Senate today recently, and the politician had no clue. Mrs. McMahon, who was the Republican candidate, gave him a lesson on it. Jobs are created in the private sector. Jobs are created by people who own businesses who are providing goods and services to others. Those goods and services reap a profit, and by having a profit, the incentive is to grow your business and to bring more jobs in. If we penalize businesses for having a profit, if we force them to operate with no margin and no chance of growing, we stifle job creation. Jobs are not created by governments. The government can hire people, but by doing that, they're taking money away from you and I and from businesses, so they're eliminating jobs out of the private sector at the same time. So, time's up, there we go. Private sector, where the jobs are created.
Federal government, on the grounds that Obamacare is unconstitutional. New York is not one of those states. Would you encourage our Attorney General to file a similar suit?
Yes, I would. I think the courts need to look at that health care law very, very carefully. I'm sure that our Congress people did not before they signed it. So we need to encourage New York State to join that group of states that are asking the courts to look at the law. I truly believe that it cannot be constitutional to mandate that someone has to buy something. But I'm not a legal scholar. But my understanding is that that simply needs to be looked at. We cannot tell you and I, we have to buy into the system. There should be choice in this country when it comes to our health. Thank you.
Candidate Art Garrison, will you support Carl Palladino, if he is governor, in his effort to rid Albany legislators' lifetime pensions and perks?
You know they want to do that. There are a whole lot of things that we have to pay attention in all. Quite honestly, one of the great red herrings is the legislators' per diems and things of that nature. The amount of money spent on that, it doesn't equal a rounding error on the budget. So paying a whole lot of attention to that, unfortunately, is not where our focus should be. I absolutely believe that we need to reform pensions across the board for all government workers. I believe that we cannot continue to spend money in that fashion, and that would include the legislature. I think we have to reform all benefits wherever possible and bring them in line with the private sector. Government workers earn about 30% more on average than someone doing a comparable job in the private sector. They retire earlier and they receive better benefits. So not only the legislature, we have to look at all government workers. We can't just worry about the rounding error. We have to worry about the big picture.
How will you keep jobs here?
You know, we did the job thing as often as we can. And it's my main concern, and I'm glad to talk about it, but it's taxes that force jobs away. It's not a coincidence when you saw those rankings of the top counties in the country. We're on the top, and we're losing jobs, we're losing people, we're losing businesses. It's not a coincidence. I almost wish I had that healthcare question. I am the economics major, probably the only one. The stimulus question. Spending doesn't get us out of an economic downturn. Spending is the problem. It is not the solution. Okay? Put the money back into the pockets of the people. Put the money back into the businesses. That's how we get out of an economic downturn.